Welcome to the Nancy Grandquist podcast, and it's such a beautiful summer day today. I have just been relishing the presence of the Lord as I woke up to this new day. And wherever you are, I'm not sure when this podcast will launch, but I pray that even if your day is fogged in, as sometimes in California, the coastline, that fog comes in, and we never know for sure when that's happening. As it is in life, a lot of times we're just covered up in fog and we're wondering, what is happening in my life? But whatever is happening in your life today, I pray that you can rest in the arms of the Mighty One, and that you know that He is taking care of your situations. So I'm happy you're joining us today. This is something brand new that I have never tried before, but thrilled to have our dear friends, the Lowell Anderson family. And we're just delighted that you are here sitting at my table today.
Thank you.
And I just feel it's so God ordained. So Madison is their beautiful girl. She is just graduated from high school, and we're going to hear from her. Tiffany, the beautiful wife of Lowell Anderson. And your story really intrigues me, what you said about where you were raised and how you found the Lord. And I'm going to ask you a few questions, if that's okay, because it's a beautiful story. Absolutely. And then Pastor Lowell Anderson, one of the great young men. And I say that carefully, Elder, because I'm 72 and you are young. To me, you are a young man, but with all respect. Thank you so much for coming. We just had lunch together and shared my first stab at trying a fresh cherry cobbler. What do you think?
It was well done.
Okay.
You have a future.
That's good. I do. Oh, thank God. I have a future. Plans for good.
Yes.
Pastor Lowell, can you just tell us a little bit about your journey?
Well, I guess it all started in being born and raised in church, fallen asleep under the pews, grew up in Napa, California, and oftentimes you don't realize how fortunate you are.
It's true.
You know, the saying, you don't really understand what you have until it's gone. That gone doesn't necessarily mean it was taken, but sometimes life goes on. Mm-hmm. And so hearing the teachings of Paul Price and Napa,
wow,
and the ministry there, have memories of Billy Cole preaching, mm-hmm, Purged, Purified. Of course, the Urshins come through, the Freemans. And so being a product of what you would consider an apostolic upbringing, really having the best of the best. And then you go through your teenage years, and just like any teenager, you want to try to figure things out on your own. Mm-hmm. And I would say my childhood is probably, as I pause to say the word perfect, but it's probably as perfect as you would
wow,
think. God-fearing parents.
I really need to shake your hand. I've only met 5 of you.
Yeah.
in my whole life.
I don't really have anything I would want to change.
Wow, that's amazing.
There was never any fighting in the home.
That's beautiful.
Seeing my parents teach home Bible studies and work. My dad was gifted with a ministry of working with young men. So that really is probably, if you know, with everything racing through my mind on trying to give a brief history here, that's probably where a passion for helping people came from. And then, of course, through those times, it's natural to start questioning some things in your experience. And God blessed me with having some men to come along and really reaffirm what my parents had put in me.
Wow.
I would not be here today if we're looking at relationships outside of my parents. I would not be here today if it wasn't for Mingo and Cheryl Guerrero. They were staples there in the
What
Napa
was their
Church.
son's name? Do they have a son?
They have a son, Darren. They have a daughter, Audrey.
Okay, I guess I thought maybe I knew him.
And their youngest, Troy, who later went on to CLC. I think several of their children did. And so going through those, I never really aspired to be in the ministry. I didn't have that angel came down and I knew I was called, but I did feel that there was, I wasn't necessarily just going to an occupy space.
So people that might be listening to this right now, Lowell, I feel like we should just stop right here and address this. That a lot of times, young men and I might add young women, they feel like, well, I didn't have anything come down from the sky and tell me, you are anointed, you are called, you are. Yeah. But this dawning, this feeling overtaking you, like I know that I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think for me, hindsight is it'll feel right.
Yes.
You'll have that peace about
That's right.
it. And it's worth, even this week, speaking to some younger people, when you are called and when you are anointed, you will never fit in. You're not supposed to. You're there to change. You're not supposed to go with the status quo. And I'll never forget something that Terry Schock said years ago. And this is what I've tried to, at least in my adulthood, pattern our ministry after and life and our business. The question should not be, will people follow you? The real question is, are you worth following?
Beautiful.
And
Can you say that one more time?
It's not, the question is not, will people follow you? The real question is, are you worth following? And everybody, there's times in your life where you will have the opportunity to see the humanity side of a man or a woman of God. But being secure enough in yourself to mentor. I am sitting at this table today, even growing up in what you would consider picture perfect apostolic home. That's my viewpoint. I hope nobody ever fouls that up
that's
for
your
me.
perspective.
It's something that
it's precious. Precious.
Going through those years, those teenage years, if it wasn't for a praying mom and dad, that's number one. Hearing those prayers come through a creaking wood floor as he closed his evening out and hearing my name called out.
Oh my goodness.
It's hard to continue being a scoundrel when you hear that going on.
That's right.
And then having people mentor me, letting them allowing me to walk down the hallway of their life and just see what things were like. And so then, meeting Tiffany, and I was the young man that would stare across the church at this beautiful young lady. And so we started a relationship long before she ever realized it. But
when did you notify her, Lowell?
Well, yeah, that's another podcast.
Okay.
But we got married very young, so made it through the teenage years. I can distinctly remember being at a men's retreat. I think it was at Alliance Redwoods, and Brother Muncie was the preacher. And having that God moment where there wasn't just maybe one particular moment where I poured my heart out and everything was right, but it was allowing me to get back to where I needed to be. That being a moment that really started to shift me out of that high school mentality into adulthood. And we have married very young.
What's very young?
Well, 20 years old.
Okay.
So we were married at 20, and I, again, could feel that something was there. I just didn't know what it was.
Did you feel it too, Tiff? Did you feel that something that he was feeling?
Of course I said yes.
Yes, but could you feel the call that was?
No, my journey's been very different than his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that a woman that loves the man that she's married to that woman, when she's able to say, okay, we're married, we're committed to this, we're going to do this thing.
Yeah.
I just think it
And we
takes
support each other in everything we do.
exactly.
But, yeah,
exactly.
I've always felt my ministry has been my kids.
That's beautiful. You have a very peaceful aura about you, Tiffany. So, Tiffany, we're going to come back to you, Pastor, in just a bit. But I wanted to ask you about your journey and the kids. You have you have 3 beautiful children. You have a couple of little boys. Well, they're not so little. They're tall now. But can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
The mothering aspect.
Yeah.
First of all, you had Madison first.
Yep.
And Madison has tears dripping down her face. And you have tears dripping down yours. And so this is a deep, tender subject. So I respect you with whatever you can say or what you cannot. You need me to go get you some Kleenex, Madison?
No. Yes, my boys are now 17 and 14, and they have autism, and that's been a journey.
When did you know that you're first?
Peyton, I knew right away that something was different.
Well, you'd already had Madison.
Because I had Madison, and
Yeah.
she did everything quickly, and she talked fast and walked fast. And when her and Peyton are only a year and a half apart, and when he wouldn't learn, like playing games or making eye contact with people, in the back of my mind, it was always like, this isn't right. And most people would say, oh, it's a boy. He's a boy. He'll do things.
Yeah, that's true.
differently.
That's true because boys normally are a little bit
Yeah.
slower anyway.
But I just had a gut feeling that there was more to it. And when I took him to the doctors about it, there wasn't a whole lot of support. There was a lot of denial.
From the doctor?
From family
Okay.
and friends. And,
Okay.
And I didn't really know anything about autism.
Okay.
You'd heard about it, but
Yeah.
you don't really know anything about it. So he started therapy at 18 months old. Just play.
Can we just stop here and say, people are afraid of what they don't know.
Yes.
And so for you to say to your family, he's not normal or he's different
Yep.
than children his age. And I do know that, children learn at different
Yes.
pace. But a lot of times people are so afraid because they just don't know what to do.
Yeah. I was afraid.
Of course.
Yeah.
So so you got him into therapy.
And then he was diagnosed at 3, which is usually the typical
Yeah.
age they give that diagnosis. And that was just a whole nother learning curve because he was a very angry child.
Frustrated.
He couldn't talk.
Yeah.
And he wanted to get things out, but couldn't get it out. And so, life, then I had a, almost 4-year-old and then
So Madison, just talk to us and tell us, you were 4 years old, but did you recognize that there was some challenges or something in this baby brother of yours? Talk right there, 5 inches away.
I think I noticed when I was younger that there was always someone with my brother, but I never knew why until I was older. Like I would be jealous to be like, why are they playing with my little brother? Like I'm right here. Like, so I had that jealousy aspect, but I never was like, there's something wrong with my brother.
Yeah.
So there was just like that aspect.
You were completely in love with him. That was your baby brother. And typical sibling rivalry here, but you had this love for him.
I never thought that there was something wrong.
Right.
Because I'm like, this is my brother. Like, this is who he is, and I'm not gonna not love him, because he's different.
Right.
So
He was her favorite toy. She liked to bounce him around.
So, Mama, so then you had your third child.
Yes, which Eli was a little bit of a surprise to us because we were right in the crux of that diagnosis. Peyton was starting preschool, and I was getting ready to have another baby. So I hoped in my mind, I'm like, be a girl.
Yes, of course.
But he wasn't. He was a boy, and he has been a treasure. And his whole diagnosis process was completely different. It was a whole nother learning curve because he developed completely typical and then had a major regression.
When was that regression?
Around 2. So they were, as soon as I thought I had it figured out, here comes the next one. You got to learn all over again.
That's got to be so difficult.
Um,
By then, did you have family that was more supportive? Did you have people in your life that was more supportive?
We were in SoCal, and my dad and my stepmom were there, and they, in those early years, definitely were a big help. Peyton loved going to Papa's house and hanging out over there. Yeah, but the school system that, I know God moved us to that area for that time because the school system, the teacher there was voted, teacher of the year for the county that we were living in. And she was amazing. She'd come to my house.
Oh my goodness.
And help me through Peyton's anger issues. So we did have some good support. And
if somebody is listening and they have a child that is having anger issues right now, what would you tell them to do?
Well, concerning autism, it's a whole lot of different things. There can be sensory issues.
Right.
There can be that communication block.
Right.
They don't always express how they feel or don't know how to.
Yeah.
But if you have people, your doctor or therapists, both my boys were in behavioral therapy, and that just helps them process through some of those issues and figure out ways to communicate.
I was watching you with, let's see.
Eli, the youngest one.
Yeah. What is his name?
Eli.
I was watching you at the meeting yesterday with Eli, and I had a picture of Jesus when there's a struggle going on with one of his children, and they're not fitting in, or they're frustrated, or they're angry or upset. And I just saw a picture when I looked at you with Eli yesterday in that meeting, the way you were holding him close, you were just gently, just petting his head and just gently loving him. I just thought that this is exactly a picture of the Lord. This is the way he does with us when we don't know why we're frustrated, when we don't understand what is happening, and yet your gentleness, cradling him, calmed him. Well, that's a perfect picture of Jesus Christ. Yep. And you, Tiffany, to me, you personify the character of the Lord, the way you love your children. And it's a beautiful, powerful picture of compassion that Jesus gives to all of us. And I want to come back and talk to you guys in a little bit, but Pastor, I wanted to talk to you about, so you have a huge business on the side, construction.
Yeah. May I make a quick comment about
I want you to, please.
I think from a father's perspective, in those early years when you receive a diagnosis of any level that affects your kids, there are certain things that it's okay, if I can use the term mourn. You may not, quote unquote, ever see your child play any kind of a sport, but you will have a lengthened season of innocence that you'll be able to enjoy with your kids. And really being sensitive to the cues my wife was picking up, to where the sooner that you embrace your situation, the sooner that you can help them.
Yes, that's right. So admitting or finally reconciling, okay, there's a problem. We're going to deal with this.
Yeah. And I would say to sum that up so that we can, make sure we're touching on every topic this today is, don't fall victim to denial, and understand this.
Oh, it's so good.
If you don't invest the time now in your situation, it will demand it later. And it's something that we found through the diagnosis of autism, through the challenges that brings, trying to be the breadwinner, going out, working, coming home. You're just constantly changing coats. And so many needs, and there were so many days where you just weren't getting to everything, and understanding that through business, through life, through being a father, being a husband, understanding that I came to the realization very soon that not everybody's going to understand and agree with how we're handling this. And the natural reaction is to, we just feel, you'll hear things like, we just feel so sorry for you. Or if there's anything we can do, the biggest thing you can do towards people that maybe special needs is touched, whether it's autism or whatever, physical, mental, whatever the case is just, if we could try to understand and give those families space. Statistically, 99% of all families with special needs of any kind don't attend church anywhere, because the church, it's the last field that is yet to be touched.
Wow.
Because we don't understand. Early on in ministry, just there's a mold that that's there. If you feel a call of God on your life, here's the mold, and we strive and we pattern our life after that. Well, what happens when life doesn't allow that pattern to be fit? So it's the church. I can't tell you the church services that my wife and I are missed out on, or as an associate pastor when we were in Southern California, having to leave at altar call, is we may not fully understand.
Yeah.
But if we can give space, so I would say, to be quite honest, the last 15, 16 years of our marriage, our family, we have more or less, if I can use the phrase, marched to the beat of our own drum, because that's what the family required.
It has to, yeah.
And so I hope that, I just wanted to comment on a few of those things. But with the business side of it is, when we relocated to Northern Idaho, I was done running a business. It is not easy. However, God has really blessed. The people that he has allowed us to come in contact with, a majority of our clients we still speak to on a regular basis.
It's beautiful.
Several of them are faithful to what we're doing there, and it's something that it's okay to work and be in ministry.
Absolutely.
Something Brother Price taught, and I can remember working with him in his garden. He said, if you can find yourself in a place to where you can work, he said, work as long as you can, because that will allow you to have a mental out.
Yeah.
And it allows you to come in contact with people and build those relationships.
Well, he always had a garden.
He always
Brother
had a garden.
Price. Yes.
He was
wasn't he a builder?
He was a plasterer by trade.
That's right.
And so the last time I think I worked with him, he was 76 years old, and I was putting mud on so he could hawk and trowel it on the wall. Wow. And so being bivocational, it's tough. But who it allows, the lives you can touch in that avenue are second to none.
I love that.
Because when you're
open doors,
when you're in the community,
yes,
and you're affecting lives,
yes,
people are watching. The greatest message I may ever teach, or anybody listening will ever teach or preach, is the one you live.
So true.
And it's something we were talking about earlier over lunch. I made the statement, it's impossible. I read this in a book somewhere. I can't remember which book it was, but it's impossible for us to fulfill our calling until we help someone fulfill theirs.
That is so powerful.
We may not understand someone else's situation, and that's okay. And something I wanted to circle back around on is when we relocated to Southern California, and that's where God opened the door for us to start ministry down there. And through the autism and through the struggles that presented, God began to work on us. And when we resigned there and moved to Northern Idaho, we felt that to pause ministry. Mm-hmm. And for someone out there, pausing ministry does not mean you're done.
That's good.
I stood in an altar with all of my family present and recited vows, sickness and health, richer for poor, for better or worse, and forsaking all others. I refused to sacrifice my family or my kids on the altar of ministry. I did not want to be a statistic.
Thank God for that.
And it's
very
okay.
wise, very wise.
And I cannot tell you, within the first handful of months of us relocating, I had several ministers call. Naturally, is everything okay? And I explained to them, my family's got some needs here, and we're real good at putting our best foot forward.
Of course we are.
But behind closed doors, this is something that needed my attention. Mm-hmm. And our pastor at the time had taught a lesson. You can say no because you said yes. Mm-hmm. I committed to my family first. God created family before the church.
Yes.
And there's no greater testimony to the kingdom of God than a family that can weather the storm. In knowing this, that we were involved in hyphen ministry, and I would have quite a few hyphen. How do you do it? How do you pattern your life? And I just tried to echo this to where we can teach family first, we can preach family first. We have a lot of great books about family first, but then there comes a time for some that they need to put family first, and we have to allow them the space to do that.
Yes.
Pausing doesn't mean you're walking away. It just means for this season, I have some needs here that you may not understand. And it's sometimes you have to make some difficult decisions for your family that you will be criticized for. And that's okay. Because
I
family's
feel the Spirit of God in this moment right now. This is so desperately needed to be spoken, because we need to give people permission.
Yeah.
What you're talking about, without them of fear of being rejected or judged or left out, oh, they're this or they're that, whatever. It's so wrong. We have to let people find their way, be spiritually led, and not everybody's path is. You want to say something?
No. He talks so much better than me.
But Tiffany, this was so amazing. So when you're in all of this upheaval, you're going to a new state. You're moving to Idaho, and then you have this whole thing with the boys, and you have an amazing girl here that's going through this and loving and all the virtues that she has in her life. But when you got there to Idaho, did you feel like Sarah, like Abraham, where in the world are we going? Or did you just like, okay, well, just whatever?
Oh no, God dropped it on my heart while we were in SoCal that we weren't going to be there.
Okay, so you knew.
So I knew, yeah. And things had become a lot more difficult, in school, in the area we lived. And so the move was easy for me, I think.
Because you knew.
Because I knew we needed
Don't you think that women have this extra sense, that God sometimes he just does drop it into our spirit, and we know, okay.
Yeah, and I definitely had some reassurance on the outside too, because I was struggling with the boys' school, and the last year we were there, I remember dropping them off at school and just crying in the parking lot. I was like, God, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And when we went to look for houses in Idaho, I had been working with the special ed director, and she was like really in my corner and trying to help me get the best for Peyton. And we kept getting denied on houses, and I was standing outside, and I was like, are we doing the right thing? Like, I don't want to mess up. This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And she called me on her personal cell phone and said, I'm leaving the district, and you need to get your boys out. And it was just all the confirmation I needed. So we made that jump. And I think Lowell was more scared because he's starting a business all over from scratch, and he's got to provide for his family, and there was a lot of pressure on that. But I remember not having that. Like, I just knew that was where we were supposed to be. And
so you're a big deal now. You're on some kind of board for. Can you tell us about that real quick?
Not a big deal.
Well,
I'm a mom with a heart.
Okay.
Who wants to help other moms?
And we also think you're a big deal. So.
So yes, I serve on.
She's a big deal.
I know she is. Yes.
I serve on the Autism Society of Idaho board.
For the entire state.
For the entire state of Idaho.
Tiffany, that is amazing.
Yes, it's learning. I'm learning.
Of course.
But it's been really good. It kind of went under during COVID, and so we're in the process of rebuilding.
Okay. Can I just stop right here and ask, someone's listening to us right now, and they're just in the wild blue trying to figure out what is going to happen with their child. Mm-hmm. Is it possible they could reach you? Do you have an email or something that they could contact you?
I do, yeah. And I would love to help. I do much better talking one-on-one to moms.
Yes, absolutely. So how would someone connect with you?
I'd be happy to give my number or email or anything.
Okay, so we'll actually put it on with the podcast. Okay.
But Autism Society of America, it's different for each state. They have different ones. So you can definitely search the society online and see your local Autism Society, and they kind of help direct people. You can get information. We try to do events.
Would you encourage parents to get involved? And not only is this strengthening and support for you, for the parents, for the family, but I just think it's an opportunity to bring our faith.
Oh yes.
To people.
Yes.
It's a huge opportunity because, we know that outside of Jesus Christ, we're hopeless people. Mm-hmm. We're hopeless humanity. Yeah. So having His Spirit to support us and surround our lives, but then finding the right path for our children that are being challenged or parents are being challenged. I think it's so important. And what I love about this family so much, all you three people, is you are so courageous in your faith and believing that God is in control and that you are in His hand. Madison, I wanted to just talk to you briefly. The first time I ever met you, we really had a moment, didn't we? And but the Lord showed me some things, and it was really a prophetic moment when I talked to you, and the Lord just poured out in that restaurant, and I didn't know what you thought of me because we had just met, and I was like, oh my.
How does she? You don't even know me. How did you just read everything that I talked to my mom about the night before?
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, I looked at my mom. I was like, did you tell her all my stuff? What is going on? I was like, I don't know. And my dad wasn't there. I was like, you just missed it. Like, as I told him too, and it was like hard. I'm gonna need a minute. Oh my gosh.
You're fine. Take your time.
I go through waves where I'm great, and then other times I really struggle.
Of course. You're human. Well, one of the things, Madison, that I was so impressed with you because you have all kinds of options. You're very intelligent, so beautiful, and have so many amazing gifts and talents in your life. And so I just feel like the opportunity is open for whatever. But I love your sincere hunger to follow after God. And, you know, we've talked about, okay, what does this look like for your life ahead? But one of it's huge to you, is to help your dad and mom launch this church. And to really, Madison, you're saying, I'm going to lay down my life. Are you 18? I'm 18. I'm going to lay down my life, my desires, because you could do and be anything because you have the intelligence. But you're saying, God, I love you so much. I just want to do something for you, and that is first and foremost before my own desires. That's very unusual. And so just talk to us for just a few minutes, Madison, and just talk about your vision, your burden. Talk about friendships, the challenges.
My burden with the church that we're starting is I really want to help in the music department. Beautiful. I have always, anytime we're at church and I see conferences and I see people singing up front, I always want to be up there, and I want to help, and I want to be a part of it. And media is also something I want to help out with, and I just want to help in any way that I can with our church. Like, if it's setting up, tearing down, like, I want to be there, and I want to be supportive, and I want people to feel loved and welcome in our church.
That is incredible, Madison. And that is the heart of God. Yes. You just described the heart of the Lord, because he wants us. Get Kleenex hanging off me. He wants us to get to that place that everything else just kind of dims away. It fades away, and we see his face, and we realize that he is calling us to work in his vineyard. And you know, I can't even, right now, I can't even express to you the things that I see in your future. I just feel like God is bringing great things because of your great humility and your great hunger to love God and to love people to him. And I love you, Madison. What a gift you are to this world. Amen. So, Dad, you talk to us about, you wanted to start a church, but there was some negotiations that had to go on with starting this church in this particular area. Yeah. And, you know, I was thinking of the story this morning. Remember when Abraham and Lot, all of their guys were fighting because they all wanted this certain territory, and remember that story. And that finally they just said, just go ahead and you can have whatever territory you want, and we'll be here. And I think that sometimes when we are like when we were in Mountain View, someone came to us and said that there was a man that had started a church just across the block. He'd come to town moved in and was starting a church right literally around the block. And so they were asking Richard M., what are you going to do with that? I mean, this guy's just moved into your territory, whatever. And his whole response was, hey, there's 8 million people in the San Francisco Bay Area. I mean, we need a church, if we could, on every city block. Yeah, he said, I bless that guy. I want him to start a church. Absolutely. And I just think it's so important that we have the big frame, the big picture, and see what does God want for us as a church.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think it's, I never, looking back on our whole history of ministry, one of the last things I said I would ever do, and you have to be careful when you tell God what you'll never do.
yes, you do.
I can distinctly remember the moment that God began to plant a burden for our area in our hearts. And I don't know what it is about when my wife goes out of town and I have put the boys to bed and I'm having just some me time. I'm sitting in the hot tub and I'm just staring up at the stars, having that question I'm sure everybody's asked themselves that's listening, God, what are you doing with my life? My dad said it best. He said, serving God is like climbing a mountaintop climbing a mountain with no top. It just keeps going
that's
and
so true.
going and going.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So I've always had a passion and desire for people. And it's okay, going back to something we mentioned earlier about pausing ministry does not mean you're done.
That's right.
It's better to prepare for an opportunity and one never come.
That's good.
Than to not prepare for something to come. And so several years ago when this began to take place and some challenges with that do come. But I would say this, when you are in a situation, if you're listening to this, that it's not panning out the way that maybe you thought, or maybe you've come up against a hurdle, the number one thing that you must do is to keep a right spirit.
Number one,
keep a right
That's
spirit. 2, you have to invest in yourself because no one else is going to do it for you.
That's true.
Read, become a student of the word, pick up any book, audio books, whatever the case is. Invest into yourself, because when God, it's your time, we have to be willing to help people. I'm 43 years old. I have a beautiful family, run a business. The season of my life to go to a seminary or to a ministry school at this stage in my life is probably not a reality. But what I can do is in my commute, in the morning time, invest, read, take advantage of the cheap hours of your day. What are the cheap hours of the day? Is before and after your family goes to bed. Don't rob from your family for ministry. It's not going to work out well. So to get back to this church situation, I think with any situation, the closer you come to fulfilling your calling, the harder it's going to get.
I agree.
And you'll understand that in this time or in this season, God will add people to your life that will stand in the gap for you.
Love that so much.
You and your husband have been a tremendous asset to us.
I love you. We love you guys.
Heroes of the faith that have invested countless hours into my life. Reinstilling, you're called. It's going to be okay. I understand you're frustrated. Keep going. Keep winning. And understand this, that this is all about the kingdom. It's all about souls. It's not about you. It's not about your reputation. It's not about the church building you're in. It's about winning and reaching souls.
That is the truth.
And it's, in that in itself, going back to that comment I made earlier, it's like, are you worth following? And it's something to where Dr. Seagraves had a saying. He said, there's no such thing as personality differences. He says, I call them character flaws. And what you'll learn through this is God will place people in your life to show you where you need to improve.
Oh, that's, yes.
Just like with our family, you know, we like to say God gave us these children so we can raise a family. I'm not so sure that's entirely true, because God in his wisdom, I feel, gives you children so he can finish raising you.
That is
He works
truth.
the selfishness out. Oh. Our first year of marriage, we had this saying, self on the shelf. When you have that moment where someone's will's got to give, well, it doesn't work if you're going to be the selfish one. But planting a church, learning to, whether everything's a bed of roses, you still got to win souls.
That's right.
Whether, you know, things hit the fan, you still have to win souls. But
yes.
Souls are first. Have a prayer walk. Praying is I can't emphasize that enough. Keep time for your family. Take days to do family things. And I would say the last thing is have men in your life that can tell you no, that know who you are, that know your family history, that understand what's going on. And, you know, obviously we answer in broad strokes. The other thing I would say is this. I would put it this way. The sooner I realize God does not need me at all, and it could be the reason he's pulling my chain is because someone else hasn't answered the call, is my number one call to my family. 2, it's to reach the lost. And so we've never done this before. This is all new to us, but I can tell you this. You know, several weeks ago, we had 18 in service.
That's fabulous.
The Sunday before we came here, it's amazing.
It's amazing.
And the Sunday before,
all brand new people. That's
brand
amazing.
New people. And then this past Sunday, it was just our family. Understanding this, that it didn't matter how many are there, or
that's right, not the number.
Whatnot. God's presence moved, and God has opened up incredible doors. One of the largest churches in our area. I still have never met the pastor, but one of his staff, long story short with that, they gave us a key to their building and said, we want to be a part of your story. And as long as you need this, we want to be a blessing to what God's doing in your life.
Wow.
And as long as you're here, you will never pay us a dime.
Oh my goodness.
So when you have these moments of great challenge, God will always step through to just let you know. It's like following the breadcrumbs. You got to go. And
I think you spoke to this point so well. When do the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think that keeping our spirit pure.
Yeah, keeping your spirit pure. And I think what really has given us the courage to follow through with what God's asked us to do is walking into a brand new area and starting a business from scratch.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks you're crazy until you're a success.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and so I think if you're just yourself, have men and women in your life that know how to pray, that can help you along the way, and learn that if and when there's a situation where agreement isn't there, you can still be respectful, still be kind, because we are required in Scripture to love our brother.
Love our brother.
Love our brother.
That's right. How can you love me whom you haven't seen when that you don't love your brother who you have seen?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty potent scripture that really does instruct us. We have to love people. Not everybody's going to appreciate everything about us. Not everybody's going to love everything we do or say, but they are our brother.
Amen.
So would you just give one last word to all the parents that are listening to this podcast today? Just a little instruction in closing.
If only I could speak like my husband. He's got great one-liners. But your kids are your ministry. And you just got to love them and do what you know is going to be best for them. My boys have taught me compassion like nothing else. But,
I believe that.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that's helped me is just embracing and learning what is best for them. And it has been hard because I'm kind of a pleaser personality, so I want everybody to be happy, but that's just not going to happen. And being okay with that.
I think that's so important, especially for mothers, because a lot of moms, they can live with guilt,
Yes.
or even like shame,
Yeah.
like I'm not competent, I'm not this, whatever. But to live in that place where God is giving me the strength and the wisdom that I need for my children. And even when we're misunderstood, and I think this is so important, Madison, as a young woman, that, people are going to look at our lives and think they know
Yes.
what is best,
Yes.
or think that they can direct you, but nobody knows what is really supposed to happen except God, your parents, and you. And I think that you have forged a beautiful relationship with your parents. And there's such it's very obvious, this bond, and the support and the love between you three. And I have the most confidence in God and in all of you that He is directing your path, Madison. He is ordering your steps. And because of your great love and commitment, there's nothing but beautiful things coming. Would you like to say anything else? Okay. Okay, he's just going to cry. Pastor, we're going to conclude this podcast, but would you just leave a word for anyone that is thinking about launching a church, or they're feeling guilty because people have said you put your family before your ministry, or just what happens to us in ministry? Would you just give someone a final word today on this podcast?
Obviously, I'm heavily biased, but if anybody, I would say this, and I feel a little bold in saying this, if anybody at any time levels an accusation of you're putting your family first, my response to that is good.
Good. Yes.
It's and also in understanding that when I felt the call to ministry and started responding to that, it was the same time that the diagnosis of autism hit our family. And knowing that being okay, it's okay if your spouse is not with you every waking moment, every conference, every event. If your family dynamic requires, in our case, my wife, that's her call. Obviously, our calling is our children, but at certain times she shoulders the brunt of that, and give space to that. Be sensitive to that. I often chuckle because you go to conferences, camp meetings, etc., and you look at the back 3 rows. None of the minister wives are smiling. They all have young kids.
You notice that.
They're and they don't, they want to be there in spirit, but the kids are crying. This one's, throwing stuff.
Yeah.
And it's okay. We have seasons in our life.
That's right.
And that's okay. And I would support your spouse, support your kids, whether you have, it's a challenge. You have 2 children with autism, trying to do things with them one-on-one, but then also, with my daughter, Madison, making sure that you have dad-daughter dates. If you're asked to travel out and preach out at churches and do some evangelism like we have, I take her with me.
That's good.
Because I want her to know what God has called our family to do.
That's so important.
And what ministry looks like here may not be what ministry looks like there. That when God moves on our family to operate as an evangelist, this is what responding to the call of God looks like. She's in the car. She sees the burden. She sees the passion, because the day will come where God will call your kids, and they need to see that. So my final word would be this. It's okay to pause. It's okay to put your family first. And don't be surprised if not everybody understands. Not everybody understands your calling, but find people that have experienced some life lessons that you can glean from, and you will find that God will put people in your lives. And we often, the people that reach out to us, or I've had pastors reach out where we have this family, that's okay. Ask questions, get in contact with us. We'll have our information. If there's anything we can do to help anybody listening to this, that's what we're here for.
That's beautiful.
And how can you help someone? How can you have a testimony if you don't first go through a trial?
That's right.
And it's something that put your family first, invest in yourself, take time, don't burn out, and keep a good spirit with whatever phase you're going through. And I would say that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Pastor. I just have to say, just sitting at your feet today, all of you, Tiffany, Madison, and Pastor, just sitting at your feet and learning from you all, and it's been such an honor to take part in this podcast today. I really do believe this is going to be so encouraging to so many people. Thank you for your beautiful lives. Thank you the way you love each other. Thank you as an example to all of us. And I know that great things are coming for your life.
We believe it.
I'm very excited.
Amen.
Great things. Thank you so much. God bless.